Good morning, and thank you for joining us for TechFest Day 2 at this breakout session, Breaking Down the Myth, Automation is a Hard Nut to Crack, a journey via keyword framework presented by Shukla Loka from National Student Clearinghouse. If you have questions for Shukla, feel free to add them to the chat throughout the session, and we'll address them during Q&A at the end. Shukla, the virtual stage is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Alison, for that. I'm sharing, so if you don't say it, put something in the chat. Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody is having a good learning day so far. Thank you all for coming to the talk this morning virtually. This is my first time with Pittsburgh TechFest. And my topic for today is breaking down the myth, automation is a hard nut to crack. I'll take you all on a short ride based off my journey via keyword framework. This is the story from our company to yours on how we transformed from zero test automation to almost fully automated, where majority of us were manual testers, by using a homegrown tool called keyword framework. We are still going strong with what we have started. So let's see what we have in store. On today's agenda, introductions, what is test automation framework? I'll be comparing two testing frameworks, BDD and keyword framework, to elevate the ease of usability of keyword over BDD. Pain points we could encounter with BDD framework. Advantages of keyword framework with certain limitations. And at the end of the talk, just a sneak peek to metrics post-implementation of automation in our company versus pre-automations. Save all your questions to the end just to keep the momentum. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Shukla Loka, QA Technical Lead working at National Student Clearinghouse. I'll refer it as NSC during my talk. I'm working in IT industry for more than 15 years now, where majority of it is in education domain for almost 10 years. At personal level, I'm a wife and a mother to 2 girls, and I'm local to Northern Virginia. Little about the company. First of all, I'm very glad to be associated with National Student Clearinghouse for about 6 years now. Our mission is to serve the higher ed community and all the learners with access to trusted data, related services, and insights. And our vision is to be a premier resource in serving and supporting the opportunities created by lifelong learning. Thousands of high schools rely on Clearinghouse for continuing collegiate enrollment and degree information on their alumni. We also work with high school districts and state education offices. It's super cool. So here's the look and feel at high level, what our company does. We have multiple service lines, and I'm with transcript services. Our education verification and transcript ordering services are used by millions of students and alumni each year. This is our website, www.studentclearinghouse.org. Feel free to download the brochure to know more about our company and the type of services it offers. We also have an office in Pittsburgh, apart from Herndon, Virginia. So feel free to refer to the career sections for any job opportunities of your interest who are local to Pittsburgh. It's a great company to join, trust me. So, who is worried about automation here? Are you all? We all would like to see one button click perform entire validation. So automation, automation, and automation. It's the popular buzzword in every company, especially in IT department. Look at what our very own Dilbert thinks. Not everything can be automated at a click of a button. He feels worried on how this can be achieved. Let's help him a little bit here by easing his worry by taking with us on our journey. So what is test automation framework all about? To begin with, it's not a single tool or process, but it's a collection of tools and processes working together to support automated testing of any given application. It's basically an integration of various functions like libraries, test data sources, and various reusable modules that can be used across the teams. Above all, it shrinks test cycle duration big time and its related cost. So, well, what are the advantages of test automation framework? Reusability of code with minimum maintenance, low cost are involved, easy reporting with the results of a test suite, there'll be minimal manual intervention from testers, maximum coverage for regression cases where we get consistent results, and yeah, it supports cross-browser testing as well, since we want to cover a wide range of clients and the use of different browsers. Test automation is one of the most cost-effective and time-saving methods to test software products with long maintenance cycles. However, if you're wondering which tool will best suit your testing requirements among the never-ending list of automation testing tools available in the market, then I might be able to throw some light based off my journey. I will walk you through a homegrown tool at our company, which is a keyword framework, which doesn't need any programming language experience when you compare it with other automation tools like BDD Framework, which does need coding experience. So in today's talk, I'll be comparing two test frameworks we have considered for UI testing. So one of them is BDD, Behavior Driven Development, and other one is Keyword Framework. I chose BDD to compare with Keyword as BDD is more popular in the market when it comes to Selenium frameworks. Both of them are Selenium-based frameworks. Selenium is one of the top 10 automated software testing tools for testing web applications. It automates browsers, enabling users to sail through various browser-specific testing purposes. So, both of these frameworks use Selenium WebDriver, but BDD uses Cucumber, which is a software tool that supports BDD, but users have to define the backend framework and the reporting is not at all user-friendly. Serenity is another open source BDD testing framework, and it is usually used together with Cucumber. So Serenity is an open source as well, which is basically a reporting library. On the other hand, Keyword Framework is action word-based testing, which uses keywords and does not need any programming language experience. Even you need it, it's very basic and just for the initial setup. So this is a Gartner Magic Quadrant for test automation tools and frameworks. Some of you might know what this Magic Quadrant tool is, but for beginners, a Magic Quadrant is a tool that provides a graphical competitive positioning of technology providers to help you make smart investment decisions. By applying a uniform set of evaluation criteria, a Magic Quadrant, it provides a view of the 4 types of technology providers. So if one has to use Gartner Magic Quadrant for test automation tools and frameworks, based on our experience, we can say that BDD is in visionary, while Keyword is in leader quadrant due to the ease of use and ability to execute. So the source credit, I have got this quadrant from www.gartner.com. So feel free to take a look at it. So what is actually a BDD framework? As mentioned earlier, it's a behavior-driven development, which is a branch of principles defined by test-driven development. As those behavior translates into test code, the QA team can achieve test automation. The test scripts are explained more as a behavior, as the name depicts, and scripts are written more in plain English. This framework encourages the collaboration across the Scrum team, like developers, testers, domain experts, and stakeholders. And yeah, the shifting needs to change, like we need to shift from thinking in test to thinking in behavior. What is keyword framework now? It's a functional automated testing framework, which is action word-based testing, as mentioned earlier. In keyword testing, we use a table format, usually a spreadsheet, to define keywords or action words for each function that we would like to execute. So let's take a look at high level what this image depicts. So this has test suites, test scripts, test data, and it's interacting with the execution engine. We have test cases written on top of execution engine to automate a web application. Test step consists of test data, action word-based keywords, object repository, HTML report is generated with the results of test scripts. So let's discuss more about this execution engine shortly, but let's take a look at what are the benefits of keyword framework. Number one, maximum code reuse. This framework allows one script to manage the entire implementation process, providing a high level of reusability and saves time. Number two, added benefit of data-driven approach. Since keyword test automation framework is an extension of data keyword-driven testing, it includes the application of data-driven methods like test scripts to read test data from data sources like Excel files rather than hard coding. And number three, testing framework extension. Any addition of new operations or modification of existing operations into the system can be easily achieved. And number four, effortless tool switching. If at all necessary to switch from one automation to another, you will have to converse with a minimum of code, as a keyword-driven testing framework comes with test cases that will remain almost in the same form. Number five, simplistic view of test. All of the operations are in the form of spreadsheets or any other preferred format like CSV file, with a glimpse of operations at once with easy view option, and they are very plain to understand. Number six, easy implementation. Creating keyword-driven tests are much easier and faster than writing test scripts. Unlike other scripts, like with other frameworks, this testing doesn't require testers to have a detailed knowledge of scripting languages. So even an inexperienced tester or even like any system analyst can implement tests using keyword-driven testing. Last and number seven, early stage testing. With keyword-driven testing, you can test an application or system at every step and run functional tests during the early stages of development. This will increase the overall automated testing success rate as well as reduce the test cost big time. So let's keep rolling. I'll compare both of them side by side on what it takes to automate using BDD versus keyword at high level. So we have three layers here, which are build tools and continuous integration, common libraries, and automation toolset. First layer is Jenkins. We are able to integrate pipelines and plug into Jenkins for both BDD and keyword frameworks. We were able to integrate with external cloud service provider as well. Every company will have CI/CD environment to be able to build and deploy across all environments. So that's kind of norm these days, like every company IT department has a CI/CD environment built so that after the deployment to higher environments, test suites can be integrated to pipelines and we can run functional and regression tests as needed. So as you can see here, the first layer and second layer for both BDD and keyword look same, but the difference is what goes in the second layer. Yes, they use Java codes here for BDD, and for keyword we are using Java codes as well. But third layer is where we write our automation test cases and testers come into the picture. BDD needs programming language experience, whereas keyword uses Excel, and Excel. BDD needs Cucumber feature files where backend is all Java. We cannot reuse them, whereas scripts can be reused in keyword. So let's look at the zoomed out image for keyword framework that we use at our company. And let's little bit talk about technicalities of what goes in the second layer. Selenium is an open source testing framework. It needs Java coding to automate test cases, which since we so the second layer is a common libraries. It does not need any programming language experience. We built execution engine, which is really an interpreter of keywords where it translates it to Selenium test steps. Since we had manual testers without the experience of scripting languages, development work has done in the engine by our solutions architect. This allows testing resources to work independently, not depending on the development team. So we kind of already touched on the first layer in our earlier slide, which is pretty much same for both BDD and keyword, right? So let's look at the second layer, which is the common libraries. This common libraries is a wrapper on a Selenium test framework. Common libraries consist of company's code, NSE developer libraries, open source libraries, and open source Selenium. It has the Spring Boot libraries. So this is the layer where we leveraged to build the execution engine based on Selenium test framework, which is our foundation. This is what I call it as test engine in Java. Interesting part is it can be run on any OS. We customized the execution engine and built it. So all the classes we built are in common libraries. Let's take a closer look at what goes into common libraries. So we have generics, program logics, dependency libraries, data readers, and custom functions. At a high level, generics consists of more generic functions, just like programming logics, which is nothing but the application logic. Our dependency libraries have ODBC drivers, IO, Spring Framework, which is the DB keywords, Selenium open source libraries. And data readers, this is more like a, what do you call, utility to load Excel files and IO utility. So this kind of generates the report files like how many test cases have passed, failed, and it also generates the report, HTML report. And the most important one is custom functions, which has keyword classes like open browser, perform enter, perform click. So these kind of keywords are built in the custom functions. So reusable Java component built by application development team, and they can be used in building keyword classes in custom functions. So custom functions again reference the program logics, which is the application logic. Test suite is a component where we implement custom functions. So basically here, keyword framework is a concept, we had to develop infrastructure to enable the framework. We also did research on many backend tools, and Selenium is the one we came up with. To summarize, it's more of like, base foundation is Selenium, and we have built keyword testing execution engine based off Selenium. So I'll be comparing third layer that are in automation toolset with pictorial representation in the next few slides. So before that, let me kind of summarize what goes in terms mapping in table format, just for the ease of understanding. For object repository, BDD uses Selenium page objects, whereas keyword uses Excel page objects. Test data is the only term that uses Excel test data file for both BDD and keyword. Configuration files, for BDD, we use Java properties file, and for keyword, Excel file again. Java constants are needed for BDD framework, whereas we are still going strong at Excel file for keyword framework. Environment settings, we have Java properties file for BDD and still at Excel for keyword framework. Cucumber feature files and Cucumber step definition is needed for BDD for test scripts, whereas test scripts can be written in Excel format for keyword framework, which is more like an extension of your manual test scripts. But the cool part is you're automating them. And finally, for test suites, we're using Java JUnit Runner for BDD framework and still at Excel file for keyword framework. You guys might be wondering, like, what can keyword framework automate? As mentioned earlier, this can definitely automate a web application very easily. And the interesting part is it can automate APIs, automate database connections and validations there, and any executable program like Java scripts, Perl script, shell script, anything can be executed through keyword framework. So what actually is a test script and the step definition? Test script are feature files and step definition is Java classes. So as you can see here, this is a snippet of how test script looks in BDD framework that's written using programming language. In BDD, we have to write step Java code just for a button click. Whereas in keyword framework, we include a step saying perform a click. It's more like a very simple manual step. Keyword-driven framework has all operations and instructions written in an external Excel file, which is more like expanding your manual test cases into automated test scripts. So that's the snippet of BDD on the left and keyword on the right. So we're kind of comparing side by side on how the test scripts actually look in BDD and keyword. Now we have compared the test scripts. Let's compare how the object repository looks for BDD and keyword. Both the frameworks needs us to find the XPath, but difference is how it's written. For BDD, we use Selenium page objects, whereas for keyword, we are using Excel page objects. As you can see, these XPaths are written in the code, and here we are writing it an object repository in an Excel file. And these can be reused, like I can give an XPath here, and if I have the same element on my UI, I can kind of reuse the same file to call into my test script. Whereas for BDD, you need to write, like, you cannot reuse the code again. So this is like a zoomed out version of the object repository file for keyword on how it looks. So we provide XPath in OR file with the object name, object type, and the object path, which is nothing but the XPath. And write the test scripts in Excel file with this OR file name, the object names, action keywords, data steps for each test step. So what is an XPath here? XPath stands for XML path, which is extensible markup language. XPaths can be used to find web elements on any web page. It's basically nothing but a technique in Selenium to navigate through HTML structure of any page. We have different ways to find XPaths on web UI by using XPath Finder. There are many tools out there, like kind of more like an extension rather than tools, like ChroPath. I'm using ChroPath here, which is extension in Chrome browser, RexPath for Microsoft Edge, or just simply right-click and inspect, which opens the dev tools, and we can find the XPath right there. So you must be wondering what this ID is. We'll cover it more in coming up slide, but this is a XPath for a button called Apply Filters. So this is a snippet on how it looks with ID on the right side of the screen. As part of good coding practice and more helpful for automation scripts, developers need to provide in their code so that the scripts are more concrete and basically less room for errors in terms of XPath. So it's an onus on the testers to make sure IDs are getting added and call it out if you see any non-script friendly XPath in your web application. Just as a side note, sometimes the page element is different from one browser to another. And if your test fails on certain browser and succeeds on another, this is one possible spot to check. As you can see here, ID apply filter underscore button has been added. And that's kind of the reflection what you have seen in my XPath in my earlier slide. So let's keep rolling. Let's talk a little bit about the test data and injection. I have test data here on the top, and I'm injecting it into my test script here, like, peak right of the screenshot that's with arrow, highlighted in arrow. So both BDD and keyword uses Excel files, as mentioned, as we were comparing in terms mapping table. In BDD, we call the Excel file in the code, whereas keyword uses the Excel file only as is for the test data injection. I can use the same spreadsheet for test data and have like 1,000 rows and use the same test script for my test for automated scripting. So what is a test suite? Test suite is nothing but collection of feature files, which is nothing but individual test scripts together. So the top screenshot is the BAT file that we execute, where we mention the test suite file name, environment that we are running, our automation test scripts, which is purely configurable, and location of the scripts. Last screenshot is the HTML report that is generated after the run. It kind of depicts the results if they passed, skipped, or failed. And once I click on the detail, I can look at like what test case, at what test script result is, like each of my test step result, if it's a pass and how long did it take. And the cool part is you can capture screenshots as well. So this is kind of the detailed report of my script. You need to click on the detail and this is what it shows us. For every scripting automation framework, you need to have reporting as well, and you need to have the error logs as well. So when a script fails, this detailed report helps us identify at what step the error occurred to debug the issue. Logs are captured after every run. Here is an example of a non-script friendly XPath. As you can see, this can break the scripts very easily whenever you add an enhancement to an existing web UI. So that's why it's very important to have IDs for XPath to have consistent results, not only in the same environment, but even across all the environments. This framework is enhanced further in custom functions, which was our second layer, with more keywords to meet our needs to perform database validation as well. Based on environment you're running, it will connect to server database. It will get details from the environment files down below. In the top screenshot, we have run, select, query, and compare is the keyword that will connect to database and validate the results, whereas run shell script keyword will connect to the server and grab the file from the location mentioned on the server to perform the validation of different files like enrollment reporting files, SSCR, etc. Moving along, this framework can also automate our API test with various methods, get, post, etc. This is also an enhanced keyword from where we have started as well after we rolled out to meet our testing demands. That's the beauty of this framework, where we can extend this without any limitations. Here is an example for basic auth API that is automated. Do post is the action keyword, and we have URL, username, and password, and we are comparing the JSON. We have the ability to ignore the fields like timestamp and created timestamp when we are comparing API response and expected JSON, so that our scripts run consistently without any false positives. We kind of spoke everything about test scripts, data, object repository, reporting, and the kind of abilities have. Now we come to the fun part where our work gets visibility at a broader scale. Source labs. Scripts can be integrated with Jenkins and Source labs for nightly runs for smoke testing and regression testing. How this can be achieved? There will be a plugin to deployment pipelines, and this can be done through command line to execute the test cases. This also can be externalized, and that would give even more flexibility to configure on different environments, like different browsers. And system configuration is the one that allows us to configure on what systems, like OS, the browser version, browser type. As you can see, this is a snippet of our smoke test scripts, which are integrated into Source Labs and run a nightly build on two browsers, Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. Here, let's take a look at the required skill for both the frameworks, again in a table format for the ease of understanding. For BDD Framework, you need to have Java programming skill set, whereas for Keyword Framework, it's very basic. For Maven, you need to have intermediate skill set for BDD and very basic skills for Keyword Framework. This is all only during like kind of one-time setup on your machines. Cucumber BDD and Serenity, both of them, Keyword doesn't need to have any skills about these two, whereas you need to have the skill set for BDD Framework. Selenium WebDriver, very basic skills for Keyword and intermediate for BDD. For both BDD and Keyword, you need to have basic skill set for MS Excel. IDE experience is not at all needed for Keyword, whereas you need to have a basic knowledge for BDD Framework. Test design, it's intermediate for both of them. So just to summarize, I'm not favoring one framework over the other, but just shared my journey at NSC. We chose Keyword Framework as it is easier to require skills, like learn skills to create automation test suites, as most of the testers were manual. So this framework uses spreadsheet, which is traditional testing, where we capture the test cases, test data, basically same process that allows us to expand manual test cases to be automated as well. So you guys might be wondering, how long did it take for us? It took only 2 weeks to create execution engine and 2 to 3 weeks of documentation and training where user manual was written, training workshop was conducted, and planning was also part of this phase. After that, we started rolling it out to other service lines. From then, it's going strong till now, where we have become zero test automation to almost fully automated for smoke testing, integration testing, and regression testing as well. I just want to talk about a little bit about the challenge with Selenium framework, which is page object model. We need to capture object model. It is to capture the object on the page that is nothing but capturing the XPath. That is the only tedious work, but it is not a drawback for keyword, but that's how the Selenium framework works. That's why it's important to have IDs during coding process for XPath during development phase only, so that XPaths are more stable, and likewise test scripts to overcome this tedious work. So what does this mean to a company, right? We have done all of this, and what did it do to our company? Let's review it in terms of metrics. Allow me to compare pre-automation versus post-automation with recent numbers of FY 2021. The CRs that got deployed like back in 2018 and 2019 were 12, and we have deployed 22 CRs in the recent fiscal year. 10 were successful out of 12 pre-automation, and post-automation, all the 22 were successful. That was really super cool. We rolled back 2 pre-automation. We didn't have to roll back any at all in this past year. Unplanned downtime was between 30 to 60 minutes pre-automation, and we had like no downtime and no unplanned downtime at all post-automation. The defect rate has also reduced, from 15% to less than 5%. Back then, we had only 5 artifacts, and with the time, we now have 12 plus artifacts. So complexity has gone up, release frequency has gone up, regression time reduced to some extent, even though the complexity kept increasing for our service line, which is transcript services. We do have same number of resources, all who were manual testers then, but now called as automation testers. Along the way, we have migrated from ADF, Angular, and then to AWS. The best part is when we migrated from Angular to AWS, we didn't have to rewrite the scripts at all and use the same, which kind of reduced time and efforts in a greater percentage. So we kind of migrated from Angular to AWS with very less time. So that's what, the success secret for any organization is, how effectively are you, deploying things to production. All our deployment comprises of WebLogic, AWS, and sometimes mix of both. So just again to summarize, Keyword Framework has really helped us come a long way from where we were and where we stand now. As our company is reaching greater height with broader clientele, I envision Keyword helping us testers provide quality products with quick turnaround time. So that's we are coming towards the end of presentation. And before moving on to Q&A, I would like to acknowledge few folks. First of all, National Student Clearinghouse for providing this opportunity, and to a senior leadership team who encouraged and let me explore myself in this path. Umesh, my boss and IT director at NSC, for acting as my mentor and providing his tremendous support throughout. Lan, our solutions architect, who is the initiator and reason of this transformation at NSE, I would like to thank her for the guidance and advice for the research and analysis, especially in the space of execution engine, where I did not have any insight into it, but now I do. Last but not the least, Pittsburgh Technology Council team for creating this platform and allowing me to speak and share my journey via keyword framework. That's all I have from my end. Let's see if anyone has any questions. Let me go to the chat window.
We did have 3 questions come in and then more coming in now. So everyone, this is your reminder to put those questions in the chat and we will address them. We have about 10 to 20 minutes left, depending on how late you want to stay with us. So Shukla, if you prefer that I read them to you, that's fine. Or if you'd like to read them out loud and answer, I think our first one came from Steve Bless early on in your presentation.
So thanks, Steve, for your question. Our company is exploring keyword framework. How long do you think it will take for execution engine itself? So that's a great question. I think I did cover it a little bit in my presentation. So for our solution architect, it took 2 weeks, actually less than 2 weeks, while she was actually working on other things as well. So it kind of took only 2 weeks for her to create the execution engine. And next question, let me scroll down. Can keyword automated scripts run on both Jenkins and Source Labs? Yes, it can. So Jenkins CI/CD deployment tool kind of belongs to continuous integration category, while Source Labs is a third-party vendor that provides a plugin way to integrate with Jenkins, which gives ability to run our test cases on multiple browsers, and we will be actually able to view the results on Jenkins. So yes, it can run both on Jenkins and Source Labs. Would you mind redisplaying the terms comparison chart? Yes, sure, Arturo. Can. Let me go back. The slideshow. So that's the terms comparison chat. Did you have any specific questions on this slide, Arturo?
Arturo, I'd be glad to unmute you if you'd like to ask instead of typing it.
No, thank you for displaying. Okay, great. Did I cover everything, Alison? I think I see one more question.
Yes.
Thank you for providing us. Okay, that's really interesting. Can APIs be automated for both REST and SOAP APIs? Sorry, I think I'm scrolling down on it. I kind of lost that question. Did I read the complete question, Alison? I don't see the chat window.
Oh, I just believe the question was, can APIs be automated for both REST and SOAP APIs?
Okay, yes. It does cover both REST and SOAP APIs. And I think I kind of touched that also a little bit in my presentation, where we have automated both REST and SOAP APIs as well. And we kind of used the keyword do post. So that was the keyword we used. And one tip I would give is to just have the consistent results and not have the false positives. Please do make sure you're kind of ignoring the timestamp, created timestamp, and if any of the fields that for sure, comparing between the expected and the JSON response that you have in your data set. So that's one of the suggestions that I would give, but yes, they can be. That's a great question.
Thank you very much for your responses. I see one more coming in from the, thank you for answering.
Okay, you're most welcome.
I think that may be all for questions, but I want to take a chance to thank everyone for attending 2021 Pittsburgh TechFest. We hope you enjoyed the content. I love seeing these great questions come in for our presenter. Keep an eye out for a follow-up conference survey that you'll see shortly via email. We'd appreciate if you could provide your feedback to continue to improve this event for the future, and we hope to see you in person in 2022.
Yeah, please take, this is my email address, gadam@studentclearinghouse.org. So even if you have any further questions or you like to connect with me, I do have my LinkedIn connection on the Sked as well. So please feel free to connect me on LinkedIn or email me, drop a line to my email. I'll be more than happy to help with your questions. So if no further questions, I'll conclude here. Thank you all for joining and sticking around till the end. Hope you all have a good rest of the day.